In a flashback, an unknown man, later revealed to be Jin Kurigiri, is tied to a chair. Monokuma, watching from a distance, presses a button which forces the man's chair into a Monokuma-shaped Iron Maiden-style rocket ship. When the rocket crash lands and the doors open, all that remains of the man in the rocket is a skeleton. This causes Monokuma to laugh hysterically. In the present day we meet Makoto Niji, an average student who was the winner of a Japan-wide lottery to attend the prestigious Hope's Peak High School, a school normally reserved only for students who are the top in their field. With trepidation, Makoto took his first steps into the school building, only for the world to begin to warp before his eyes. Makoto later wakes up in an empty classroom after falling unconscious. He finds a brochure for the school on the teacher's desk, where he finds a note instructing him to gather in the school's gym at 8 o'clock for the entrance ceremony. After realizing it's already 8 o'clock, Makoto cautiously leaves the classroom for the gym, where he meets his 14 classmates. The final student Makoto meets, Sayaka Meizono, super high school level idol, recognizes Makoto because the two of them attended the same junior high school. Makoto is surprised someone as popular as Sayaka would remember someone as average as him, and Sayaka pretends to be offended as a joke, breaking the ice. A voice begins speaking over the school tannoy, and suddenly a black and white bear appears on the podium on the stage. He introduces himself as Monokuma, the school's headmaster. Monokuma states, "Overflowing with potential, you high schoolers are none other than the hope of the world. In order to protect our wonderful rays of hope, you're expected to live here on campus and nowhere else. In other words, you're gonna spend the rest of your lives in here. For those of you who want to leave, I've established a certain rule. You are free to murder however you like. The only student permitted to leave is one who has committed murder." The students are understandably confused and shocked by this revelation and begin shouting at Monokuma for an explanation. Mondo, furious, threatens Monokuma and grabs him by the throat. Monokuma begins to flail, telling Mondo that violence against the headmaster is against school rules. This violation of school rules prompts Monokuma to explode, which would have killed Mondo had he not thrown Monokuma away at Kyoko's instruction. Seconds later, another Monokuma appears from behind the podium and tells the students that if any more rules are broken, they would be punished. He dismisses them and quickly disappears behind the podium. The students are left questioning whether they really did have to kill each other, and whether they can trust this group of strangers. The students break off into groups to try and find a way to escape, although none of them were successful. Byakuya announces that he would be searching alone in case anyone tried to kill him. Makoto tries to intervene, but instead Mondo punches Makoto for telling him what to do. Makoto is knocked unconscious. Makoto wakes up in what he learns is his new dorm room with Sayaka by his side. She explains that he had been carried to his room after he was knocked out, and that she had volunteered to stay with him after everyone else went to look for an escape. Sayaka insists that she will be Makoto's assistant from now on as they work to find a way out, and Makoto agrees. The pair join the rest of the students at a meeting in the cafeteria. Mondo and Makoto forgive one another. The students share what each group learned during their investigations. The futuristic exit door is sealed tightly closed and could not be forced open. The stairways are sealed with iron bars. Each student has their own comfortable bedroom, and that the kitchen is fully stocked and would be refilled daily with no risk of starvation. Celestia proposes that everyone stays in their room after 10 p.m. for safety. The next day, at a second student meeting after further investigation of the school grounds, Monokuma gate crashes and reveals his first motive, a DVD for each of the students that he has left for them in the A/V room. The students go to the room, which is full of monitors, and find a labeled DVD for each of them. Makoto takes his DVD and watches it, finding a scene of his sister, mother, and father congratulating Makoto and wishing him well at his new school, sitting in their home. Suddenly the scene in the video shifts to another shot of the same room, but the room is destroyed and his family are nowhere to be seen. Horrified, Makoto looks to his other students, finding Sayaka in a state of severe shock at what she had seen on her own DVD. Sayaka begins screaming and flees the room, pursued by Makoto. He finally catches up to her in the hallway, and Makoto reassures her that if they all work together they will all be able to escape, promising her then he will do anything to get her out. Sayaka throws herself into Makoto's arms and wailed while the other students watched on. Makoto Niji took some time to check out his room in closer detail. After reading a notice on his bathroom door, he learned that the water would be turned off each night at 10 p.m., that he had a tool kit in his desk drawer, and that only girls' bathroom doors had locks. After trying to get into his bathroom, he realized that the door was faulty and difficult to open, and Monokuma appeared to teach him the trick to opening it. After Monokuma left, Sayaka appeared at his door, frightened and telling him that someone had tried to force their way into her room. Makoto agreed to switch rooms with her in order for her to feel safer. The next morning, at the breakfast cafeteria meeting, Sayaka was notably missing. Fearing the worst, Makoto fled back to his room where he discovered it was trashed. He checked the bathroom and found Sayaka's body covered in blood, with a knife embedded in her stomach. Makoto screamed and passed out. Some time later, Makoto awoke in the gym after being carried there by Sakura Ogami. The students had all gathered in the gym at Monokuma's insistence, where he teaches them additional killing game rules and how the process of class trials work, including executions. If the students are unable to identify the culprit will walk free and the other students will be executed. If the students identify the culprit will be executed. Junko protested, refusing to take part in the trial. This angered Monokuma, and he charged at her, but Junko stepped on him, pinning him down. Monokuma reminded her that violence against the principal is against the rules, and summons spears of Gungnir out of thin air. Junko is impaled by multiple spears all over her body and fell to the ground dead. The students were shocked, but realized that they were going to be forced to investigate Sayaka's death, or they would meet the same fate. The students learned from their handbook that Sayaka died in Makoto Niji's room, which immediately made him the prime suspect. Makoto and Kyoko found the knife that killed Sayaka, discovered her wrist was broken, that she had gold flakes from the katana, and found numbers written on the wall in blood. When investigating the incinerator room with Ifumi Yamada, Makoto found a shattered crystal ball and a piece of bloodied cloth. Kyoko realized that Makoto and Sayaka's dorm room nameplates have been switched. Finally, Makoto found Sayaka's motive DVD in the trash can. He played the DVD in the A/V room. First, Sayaka is shown performing with her idol group, but the scene suddenly transitions to her bandmates on the floor of the state, apparently dead. Monokuma, narrating, told Sayaka that she had no place to return if she ever left the school, and left her with the question of what happened to her bandmates. After a Monokuma announcement over the monitors, the students then headed for the class trial room. After being called to the class trial room by Monokuma, Kyoko also notes that although there are only 15 students, there is also an additional 16th podium. Monokuma dismisses her questioning, answering that it just means that there are a maximum of 16 participants. The students take their places, and the class trial begins. The students begin trying to piece together the timeline of the crime, beginning with the murder weapon, the knife in Sayaka's abdomen. Aoi and Sakura recall that the two of them were in the kitchen the previous night, and saw Sayaka enter the kitchen ostensibly to get a snack, believing the kitchen with a kitchen knife. Tuko accuses Sakura and Aoi of being accomplices in crime, but Monokuma interjects that even if they were accomplices, only the student who committed the murder would be allowed to graduate. Makoto is the prime suspect once again, but Kyoko steps in, bringing up the fact that the bathroom door's handle had been unscrewed from its hinges, something Makoto would never have done, because he knew the trick to opening it. Mondo interjects that the killer must have just assumed it was locked, but Makoto counters that only the locks in the girls' bathrooms have locks. Celestia questions why the killer would have assumed that the door was locked if the room belonged to a boy, but Kyoko explains that the door's nameplates had been switched, which meant the killer assumed the room belonged to Sayaka. Ultimately surmising that Sayaka must have let the culprit in herself. Byakuya suggests that the only reason she did this was to frame Makoto for a murder, and the only reason she failed was that she was counterattacked by her target. Leon says there wasn't any more evidence, but is quickly contradicted by Makoto. Kyoko begins to talk about the dying message behind Sayaka's corpse. 11,037. Suddenly Makoto realizes the message was the culprit's name. He explains to the surprised students, if you flip 11,037 180 degrees you get Leon, the first name of Leon Kuwata. He looks at Leon, who begins to get angry. Makoto expands, saying how she was lying on her back when she wrote it, so the message was from her point of view. Leon strongly denies that he was the culprit, but Kyoko contradicts him with the evidence that he tried to get rid of the remainder of a bloody shirt sleeve and a smashed crystal ball which were found by the rubbish incinerator. Makoto goes over what must have happened. After killing Sayaka, the culprit hurried to get rid of the evidence. However, they couldn't get to the incinerator as there was a shutter gate in the way. So, the culprit used Hiro's crystal ball to open the gates by throwing it at the on button through the shutter gates. They threw the bloodied shirt into the incinerator and quickly left the garbage room. However, a part of the shirt which was not completely burnt fell to the ground, and thus was being used as evidence. Leon stands shocked and horrified, unable to speak. Monokuma announced that it's time to vote on the culprit. A fruit machine with the all students' faces on it is shown. The machine stops with all 3 columns on Leon's face. Monokuma happily confirms that the person who killed Sayaka was Leon. Leon shakily admits it. Everyone is horrified at the revelation. Monokuma exclaims that because they successfully caught the culprit, Leon will be given a punishment. Leon tries to reason with Monokuma and the horrified students that he only killed her in self-defense, and brings beating the walls with his fists. A metal clamp is strapped around Leon's neck, attached to a long chain. Leon tries to remove the clamp, but it's closed tight. The chain yanks Leon back through a long corridor into a baseball batting cage. A baseball pitching machine begins firing baseballs at Leon's body. The final blow comes in the form of a dozen or more baseballs fired at high speed directly at his face. Leon is left hanging lifeless from the pole as baseballs covered in Leon's blood roll towards the students. In the final scene, Kyoko comes to Makoto's room to talk, and Makoto correctly surmises she wants to talk about Sayaka. Kyoko tries to reassure him that despite the fact Sayaka had lured him into a trap, her final thought must have been to save him, or she wouldn't have left the dying message on the wall implicating Leon. Kyoko tries to get him to keep moving forward, but Makoto insists that he will carry Sayaka and Leon's deaths with him for the rest of his life. Kyoko smiles at him, happy to see him move forward. Following the day after, Monokuma grants the remaining students access to the 2nd floor of the academy, leading to a library. Along with a swimming pool with gender-specific changing rooms, the students can change and go through to the pool area. Whilst the rest search the newly opened floor, Byakuya and Kyoko come across a school laptop that won't turn on, aware they are likely not able to use the internet. Makoto, in his search, comes across a letter of indication that clarifies Hope's Peak Academy has shut down school operations, and will continue said operations once the issue has been resolved. Unaware of what this means, they put the knowledge aside for later. Byakuya leads them to a room full of confidential files. As all the students start pooling into the library, they begin discussing the killing game once more, Chihiro exclaiming that she doesn't like it and doesn't want to kill her friends, leading to Byakuya sneering that everyone had voted to kill Leon themselves. Several people defend their own reasoning as to why, and Mondo's temper rises as he tries defending Chihiro's sadness. Byakuya only mocks him, and Kiyotaka attempts to stop Mondo from lashing out, only leading to the biker storming out of the library in anger. Multiple people begin leaving, and Tuko confesses she has no trust for everyone, and that no one would care if she died as long as it isn't them. Running away screaming, the remaining students in the library are warned from the drama. Aoi offers to take a dip in the pool to relax, finding out that the changing rooms are locked. Monokuma explains that e-handbooks are required to get in, and are specified to the designated gender only, or else the offender will be shot down by a machine gun. Later that night, Makoto comes across Tuko in the library, watching Byakuya read with a love-struck expression. He orders her to leave him alone and take a shower, claiming that she smells bad enough that he can sense her from far away. Dejected, Tuko agrees, and is followed by Makoto, trying to assure her that Byakuya's manners were never the best. She only seems to be under the assumption he cares about her and her hygiene, and that she and Byakuya are the perfect couple. She skips back to her room happily, leaving a shocked Makoto behind. Later, Makoto is caught in the middle of a fight between Mondo and Kiyotaka, and dragged to judge their battle of endurance in the sauna. Makoto eventually leaves them behind to wrap up the competition, leading to the two boys bonding in the sauna, evidenced by how close they are the very next day. Monokuma then assembles the students for a pep rally, revealing his next motive, in which he will publicly announce everyone's darkest, or most embarrassing secrets unless someone is killed in the next 24 hours. Despite people being shocked at their own secrets written on paper, Makoto believes no one would kill over something so trivial, especially as his own secret, wetting the bed until 5th grade, is too petty. Despite his thoughts, he wakes up to an announcement that someone has died overnight. Makoto rushes to the cafeteria to check whoever they're missing, and they decide to split into groups to seek out whoever has died, Byakuya quickly recruiting Makoto as his partner. He leads him to the girls' locker room, and there they find Chihiro's corpse strung up as a crucifixion, and the phrase, "bloodbath fever," written in blood on the wall behind her. Kiyotaka appears soon after the two find her body, and the body discovery announcement leads to the rest of the students filing inside, staring in horror at Chihiro's body. During investigation, several peculiarities are found. This prompts Byakuya to reveal that the death must be the work of Genocide Show, and thus leads Makoto into the confidential files room in the library to pick up the cases on the murderous fiend, nearly everything about Chihiro's death matching up to the descriptions of the murderous victims. Aoi Asahina retrieves the two and explains that Tuko locked herself in her room and refuses to come out and speak unless Byakuya is there. She then shakily apologizes to the heir, and exclaims that she won't allow Genocide Show to add her to her. Monokuma announces that the second class trial will start. The episode begins with the trial for Chihiro Fujisaki's murder underway. Monokuma prompts them to start discussing the weapon used, with Makoto preparing for the non-stop debate, his truth bullets ready. Byakuya kicks off the debate, stating that the victim's fatal injury was caused by blunt force trauma. Yasuhiro Hagakure suggests a metal pipe as the weapon, but Makoto dismisses it, pointing out that no pipe was found at the crime scene. Byakuya asserts he already knows the culprit, revealing that Chihiro's killer is Genocide Show, which shocks everyone. Makoto backs Byakuya's claim, noting they found a dossier on Genocide Show in the library, connecting the murder to the serial killer's trademark style. Celestia is surprised, and Byakuya reveals the killer's identity, Tuko Fukawa. Despite her protests, Byakuya insists that Genocide Show killed Chihiro, prompting her to transform into her murderous alternate personality. Genocide Show, now in control, mocks Byakuya and insists she didn't commit the murder. Makoto argues that, while she could be the killer, they cannot be certain. Genocide Show defends her actions, explaining that she only kills men she finds attractive and never women. Byakuya insists that all her victims were crucified, which Aoi and Mondo refute, pointing out that no other victim was tied with a cord. Makoto then questions Byakuya's involvement, recalling that the Genocide Show dossier was the same as one he had at home. This revelation raises suspicions that Byakuya may have tampered with the crime scene to frame Show. Recalling the confusion about the missing protein coffee stain, he concludes that the murder must have happened in the boys' locker room. Byakuya is caught off guard. Byakuya reluctantly admits his involvement, confessing that he tampered with the crime scene to test his classmates during the trial. With that settled, Celestia shifts the discussion to how the culprit gained access to both locker rooms. Kyoko reveals that the e-handbooks of the deceased were found in the foyer, and the culprit could have stolen one to access the girls' locker room. Makoto recalls Celestia mentioning that Chihiro was carrying a duffel bag with a jersey stuffed inside, but no jersey was found at the crime scene. Makoto refutes this by pointing out that Celestia never mentioned the jersey's color, leading to Mondo's nervous admission that he had made an assumption. Despite his protestations, Kyoko and Makoto confront him with the evidence. As the trial progresses, it becomes clear that Mondo was the killer. Makoto reconstructs the events of Chihiro's death. Chihiro, carrying the duffel bag, was confronted by the killer in the boys' locker room. The killer struck Chihiro with a dumbbell, bludgeoning him to death, then tampered with the crime scene by switching the contents of the locker rooms. In a quiet admission, Mondo confesses to killing Chihiro, shocking his best friend, Kiyotaka, who cannot believe it. Monokuma begins his presentation on Mondo's motives. Monokuma then announces that it's execution time. Despite Kiyotaka's desperate pleas, Monokuma proceeds with Mondo's execution. The scene transitions into a pixelated fade as Mondo is strapped to a motorcycle in a colorful fairground setting. The execution, titled Motorcycle Death Cage, sees Mondo riding a speeding bike inside a cage until he becomes dizzy and disoriented. As the execution reaches its climax, Monokuma reveals that Mondo has been transformed into a small tub of butter, and he mocks the students for their emotional reactions. Monokuma taunts the students, claiming that despair is their birthright, and Kiyotaka's emotional breakdown underscores the futility of their situation. As the camera pans across their faces, Makoto reflects on how powerless they all are, with Aoi mourning the deaths of the fallen students. She goes out by herself and discovers a bright light glowing in the darkness. A close-up of Chihiro's face is seen and Aoi's screams echo in the hallways. A new floor is opened for the students following the class trial, which has rooms such as a game room, art supply room and science lab. Monokuma calls all the students to the gym, where he reveals a new motive: a reward of 10 billion yen if you kill and get away with it. The students all doubt anyone would kill for money. Aoi sighs as Sakura Ogami wonders what's up. Aoi then reveals that she saw Chihiro's ghost. The students soon all gather in the public baths to find a laptop which Chihiro had repaired. The laptop contains the AI alter ego, which is currently trying to crack some files. Alter ego presents itself as Mondo Owada in front of Kiyotaka to assure him it wasn't his fault for not stopping Mondo before he killed Chihiro, resulting in him having a new spark of life as Kyondo Ishida, believing Mondo's soul to be within him. Everyone watches in confusion as Kyoko tells Alter Ego to keep working, when suddenly Alter Ego shows them a picture of Leon Kawada, Chihiro and Mondo goofing off with each other. The group is once again confused as they wonder if Monokuma was playing tricks. The next day, Makoto Niji hears some screaming coming from the bathhouse. When he goes over to see Hifumi bowing in front of the girls, he notices Makoto and starts begging for help to save him. When Makoto asks what happened, Hifumi says that he visited Alter Ego last night and that he now has a connection with Alter Ego and that he thinks he loves it. When Kiyotaka comes in and says that he won't allow his friend to be crushed on by him, and soon they start a minor fight as Kyoko breaks it up. Kyoko bans everyone from seeing Alter Ego and everyone agrees, Kiyotaka and Hifumi begrudging saying the other to keep away. The next day Kyoko calls everyone to the public baths that night to reveal Alter Ego has gone missing. Kiyotaka and Hifumi blame each other. The next morning, Kiyotaka and Hifumi's bodies are found dead and Celestia is attacked by the Robo-Justice. However, the situation becomes more confusing when the pair's bodies disappear and are found again in an art cupboard. It appears Hifumi is on the edge of death, and gasps Yasuhiro, and having already met everyone before coming to the school before passing away. Hifumi dies in Aoi's arms, just as Monokuma announces that a corpse has been found and that a class trial will be held. Everyone is distraught at the loss of two in a row. The episode begins with a flashback to the previous episode, Hifumi Yamada dying in Aoi Asahina's arms as Monokuma announces that a corpse has been found, and that a class trial will be held soon. Makoto leaves soon after the others to look for Kyoko and Yasuhiro, but is found by the former instead. Kyoko interrupts Makoto when he asks her where she'd been all this time, requesting that he assemble everyone for her. They assemble at the pool. Inside the locker is the Justice robot suit. Sakura and Makoto help Yasuhiro out of the robot suit, Toko Fukawa making fun of Yasuhiro for making something he can't get out of, but Yasuhiro claims that he didn't make it himself. He tells the others that he got a note telling him to meet up with someone. However, he was attacked from behind and knocked out, and when he came to, he was wearing the robot suit. Kyoko inspects the corpses of Kiyotaka, Ishimaru and Hifumi, with Makoto saying that they died due to blunt trauma to the head. Multiple clues are found by them, and Kyoko finds Hifumi's note. Then, they go to the class trial. The class trial begins. Aoi and Celestia insist that they know already who did it, Yasuhiro Hagakure. Yasuhiro frustratingly insists that it wasn't him. Celestia asks what he is getting at, and Makoto pulls out the note that Yasuhiro showed him earlier. Kyoko calls for us. He states that the difference in handwriting is. Kyoko intervenes, saying they should talk about the other possibilities. Celestia sighs, saying that Kyoko was the only other person absent. Kyoko says that even with the trolley, it would have still been hard to move Hifumi's body and suggests that the corpse moved itself, being met with shock and a rebuttal from Celestia. Makoto thinks to himself, mentally going through the whole thing. He picks up on something Celestia said earlier. Celestia laughs almost maniacally, saying that Makoto really wants to frame her as the culprit. Then, Makoto objects, saying it could be no one else. To this, Celestia gets incredibly mad, and recalls the last words of Hifumi, Yasuhiro. Makoto asks for Celestia's real name, but she objects, asking if she would have such a lame last name like Yasuhiro. He then asks her to show her student handbook, because it displays user's real name when booting up. Celestia has no response, indicating that Makoto's suspicions were true. Makoto tells Celestia that she lost, and Celestia admits she did it. She then asks Monokuma to start the punishment. The vote is unanimous, with Celestia found guilty. Monokuma tells them Celestia's real name, Teiko Yasuhiro. Then, Celestia reveals her entire plan, motivating Hifumi by using alter ego and killing both Ishimaru and Hifumi. She also tells them of her dream, to live out the rest of her days in a western castle, which was why she turned to gambling. Monokuma's 10 billion yen would have been sufficient for the castle, had Celestia gotten away with the murder. Celestia starts walking away for her execution, saying that if she were to be reborn, it would be as Marie Antoinette. After the trial ended with Celestia's execution, Kyoko and Makoto discovered alter ego located in one of the lockers of the bathhouse. As Kyoko begins to leave, Makoto asks her what she was doing all day, by herself. Kyoko responds with, "Nothing you need to know right now." Try and tells him what she was investigating, a secret room, in the boys' washroom on the second floor. But then, just as Makoto reads out the ominous phrase, a masked figure comes out from behind him and hits him on the head, knocking him unconscious. After he regained his consciousness, Makoto realized all the files in the hidden room were gone. Amidst his worry and confusion, sometime later, he overheard a commotion from the gym. Makoto overhears that Sakura had been forced to become Monokuma's mole as he took her family dojo hostage. As Makoto feels he should not jump to conclusions until he has talked to Sakura, Kyoko becomes annoyed with him for keeping secrets from her. After exploring the fourth floor, containing some locked rooms that Monokuma forbids breaking into, Mondo's gang catches up with Alter Ego, who reports that Hope's Peak Academy was placed under lockdown due to a terrible incident, theorizing that the school's true headmaster may be behind it. He also discovers another strange photo, this time of Sayaka, Celestia, and Hifumi together. Monokuma announces to everyone that Sakura is the mole, who was ordered to kill someone in exchange for her dojo's safety. As Aoi becomes angered by the mean words said about Sakura, she gets into a scrape with Genocider, leaving Sakura angered that innocent people got involved. Alter Ego asks Makoto and Kyoko, who forgives Makoto for keeping quiet about Sakura, to take him somewhere where he can connect to the school network so he can find a way to help the students escape. Despite knowing the risks involved, Makoto and Kyoko respect his wishes and set him up in the hidden room. Makoto, Kyoko, and Aoi discover Sakura dead in the rec room, which is locked from the inside. Kyoko conducts her investigation. Aoi directs her anger towards Byakuya, Toko, and Yasuhiro, feeling one of them is responsible for Sakura's death. Following an investigation in the chemics lab, the class trial begins. Toko reveals she, Byakuya, and Yasuhiro all received notes from Sakura calling them to the rec room, where she witnessed Yasuhiro attack Sakura with a glass bottle out of fear. However, Yasuhiro being the culprit is ruled out when Makoto reveals Sakura was hit twice. Toko passed out from seeing Sakura's bloody forehead and became genocider, hitting her with another bottle. As this is also revealed to have not been a killing blow, Byakuya reveals that the actual cause of death was poison. Aoi confesses, claiming that she replaced Sakura's protein shake with poison and gave it to her. However, Makoto and Kyoko's analysis of the closed room scenario, along with a piece of glass found in the poison bottle Byakuya presented, reveal that Aoi is hiding the fact that Sakura committed suicide. She tried to steer the trial to a wrong verdict, believing from a suicide note that Sakura was suffering and that everyone deserved to die to make up for it. Monokuma reveals the note she read was a fake he made. Sakura's real suicide note states that she took her own life to save her dojo and wished for everyone else to make it out of the academy alive. Although the others feel encouraged by Sakura's dying wishes, Monokuma reveals he caught Alter Ego trying to hack into the school network and destroys his laptop with a digger. Later that night, Kyoko has Makoto distract Monokuma while she does some investigating. She warns him about the Academy's 16th student and super high school level despair, Mukuro Ikusuba. After the group explore the 5th and final floor, containing a botanical garden and a classroom filled with blood, Byakuya questions Kyoko about her identity, but she states she does not remember due to amnesia. Byakuya dismisses this idea and confiscates Kyoko's room key. Makoto is given the responsibility of looking after a survival knife that Toko found. Later that night, Kyoko, who obtained a mysterious key and the details about Mukuro from the headmaster's office thanks to Sakura breaking down the door, asks Makoto to keep Monokuma occupied while she investigates the dorm building's 2nd floor. Makoto comes down with a fever as a result of staying up all night. He has a dream stating he is supposed to stay in Hope's Peak Academy instead of escape from it, before witnessing a masked person wielding the survival knife, followed by Kyoko telling him something he cannot hear. Waking up the next morning to discover the knife is missing, Makoto heads to the gym where everyone else is disassembling a Monokuma unit. Whilst looking for a way to break into the headmaster's office for answers, the group discover a corpse in the botanical garden resembling the masked attacker Makoto saw. Before they can remove the mask and identify the victim, a bomb goes off, torching the corpse and leaving it unidentifiable. Finding a key to the data processing room, the group are confronted by a fully working Monokuma, who reveals all their actions are being broadcast live to the outside world. A class trial is to be held for the corpse they found, which is that of Mukuro Ikusuba. After conducting their investigation, during which Byakuya Togami has Makoto Niji investigate Kyoko Kurigiri's room, the class trial begins. Byakuya accuses Kyoko, who has no alibi, but she curiously brings up evidence that effectively negates Makoto's alibi. After ruling out a fake stab wound, along with multiple wounds from days ago, as causes of deaths, Byakuya points out a locker key found in Kyoko's room, which opens a locker in the archery room containing steel arrows that could be used as a blunt instrument. Although this appears to be contradicted by the fact Byakuya had the key to Kyoko's room the entire time, Makoto considers the possibility that Kyoko could have used the key she stole from Monokuma. Deciding to believe in Kyoko and not reveal the key, Makoto questions that something is wrong about the trial. However, Monokuma suddenly declares an abrupt end to the trial, declaring Makoto to be the culprit. Makoto is placed on a conveyor belt leading to a crusher, but he is miraculously saved thanks to a virus left behind by Alter Ego and falls safely into a garbage dump below. Sometime later, Kyoko throws herself down the garbage chute to aid Makoto, providing him with food and a means of escape. Kyoko explains how Makoto would have been the victim had she not saved him from the assailant, with the trial a setup to get either her or Makoto out of the picture. Whilst making their way up a giant ladder, Kyoko states she had regained some of her memories, revealing herself to be the ultimate detective, who came to Hope's Peak Academy to see her father, the headmaster, who she is not on good terms with. Arriving back at the academy, Makoto and Kyoko confront Monokuma, offering to settle things in an all-or-nothing class trial, in which they must not only deduce Mukuro Ikusuba's murderer but also solve all the mysteries surrounding Hope's Peak Academy. Reuniting with the others and given the entire academy to examine, Makoto prepares for the final investigation, the final class trial and the final battle between hope and despair. Monokuma has decided to make the last class trial in which the survivors have to solve the high school's mysteries, including the culprit of Mikuro Ikusuba's death. Monokuma announces in the beginning of the episode that he is now unlocking all rooms in the school, including the private room of the headmaster, Kyoko's father. Kyoko Kurogiri and Makoto Niji go inside the private room. Inside, there is a computer, on which Kyoko has gotten previous vague information on ultimate despair. On this computer, there is a password box, but what it is for, they do not know. Kyoko mentions that she has tried countless different answers for the puzzle, that is the password code, to no success. Makoto, however, gets an idea he is sure Kyoko did not think of. He types Kyoko, Kyoko's first name, and is successful, opening a secret door that was hidden in the wall. Makoto and Kyoko go inside this newly revealed secret room, only to come across a brightly colored package on a table. Despite Kyoko's warning that it is most likely something unpleasant, Makoto opens the gift box to find a human skeleton, assumed to be that of the headmaster. Along with the remains, there is an ID card, presumably belonging to the headmaster. Also in the room, Kyoko comes across a picture of her father and herself when she was younger, and find a memory card of some sort taped on the backside of the frame. Kyoko and Makoto go to the lab in which they watched those first motive video clips way back in episode 01, and put on the card. The only file on it is a video file, and it turns out to be a file of each student being interviewed by the headmaster, agreeing to stay locked in the school for life. As soon as the video gets to Junko Inashima, however, Monokuma cuts the power, frying the chip and saying that it was a power outage of some sorts. After the video incident, Kyoko asks to be left alone, so Makoto leaves her and goes to investigate on his own, going to the locker room on the second floor. Using the ID card he found in the secret room, he unlocks 2 lockers there, one having notebooks full of class notes that belong to Yasuhiro Hagakure, and the other solely containing a journal of Kyoko's. Later, Makoto goes up to the 5th floor and into the biology lab, which is now unlocked. There he finds a passed-out Tuko Fukawa, who wakes up as genocide is shown. They then both observe that there are only 9 bodies as opposed to what they believe should be 10 in the lab's morgue storage, one of them being Mikuro Ikusuba. Genocider Sho also notices that Mikuro was stabbed multiple times through her body. Sho then leaves to go find Byakuya Togami. Once she leaves, Monokuma slips each student a picture containing every other student besides them in it as a special hint. Not too long after, the final trial begins. This time Monokuma is instead taking part in the trial as opposed to just observing. The trial starts off with accusations from Hiro that everyone is aiding the mastermind besides himself, as he assumed from the picture having everyone but himself in it. The group comes to a conclusion that it was just a trick on the mastermind's behalf to get them all against each other. However, Makoto points out that the photos are not fake, with his backup evidence being the video file from the memory card. He concludes that not only do they all have amnesia, but it is most likely that they all had their memories stolen from the mastermind. Monokuma confirms this, and then directs the trial back to the main point: Mikuro Ikusuba's death, and the culprit. Pulling many clues together, including the stab wounds, lack of a 10th body in the morgue, Junko's face being hidden in all the pictures, and Monokuma's cutting off of the video once it got to Junko, Makoto realizes that the mastermind is none other than Junko Inashima. Junko then appears in a screen of smoke, telling the remaining students that she and Mikuro were twins, and laughing menacingly as the episode ends. Junko Inashima reveals that she had used Mikuro Ikusuba, her older sister, to take her place, before showing the others footage of the outside world. It is revealed to be in total chaos, which is confirmed by Genocide Sho, who retained her memories due to them being separate from Tuko Fukawa's. It is then revealed that the memories that were stolen from the students were actually of 2 whole years spent together in Hope's Peak Academy. A year ago, when a terrible incident hit the world, the school was converted into a shelter to protect the students carrying Hope on their shoulders. However, Junko killed the headmaster, erased the students' memories, and began the killing game, even betraying her own sister in the process. Junko then holds a final vote between hope and despair. If everyone votes for hope, they must leave the academy. But should even one student vote in favor of despair, the students will remain in the academy and Makoto Niji alone will be executed. Despite this, Makoto manages to use his own hope to inspire the others to stand up against despair, earning him the new title of Ultimate Hope. With the trial over, Junko revels herself in the ultimate despair and gives herself the ultimate punishment, leaving behind an escape switch. With hope in their hearts, Makoto and the others use the switch to leave the academy and venture into the unknown world, unaware that Monokuma is still active.